Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. I thank you for joining me today. I made today, it's a challenge for me. I've had a lot of people talk about it. I'm going to go through today's show without saying guys so much. I said in my intro and I said in my outro. I've noticed I've been saying it just in a significant amount. I've been saying guys way too much, and I want to stop it because I always go back and watch my shows. I'm trying to make everything better for you guys. I'm trying to be professional here, but still have fun at the same time, and I still want to be myself. But that is something that we are going to work on in this podcast. We're going to stop saying guys so much. So, got an action-packed show ready for you today. We have got all NFL stories. I'm going to discuss the action that happened in Monday Night Football with the doubleheaders, which, again, NFL, for the love of me, can we please just get rid of Monday Night Football doubleheaders? They're absolutely abysmal. It's so hard for somebody like me who hates multi-view on my TV to where I don't have the opportunity to have double TVs. Everything's in full 16:9, 180p and 90 ratio, and to where just full capacity. I'm able to watch both games. And I had to watch multi-view where half of my TV screen is cut off. I cannot stand it in multi-view. I despise multi-view. Even though it's a cool feature to have, I just don't particularly like it myself. So, NFL, can you... Not NFL. Yes, NFL. Where am I at? NFL, please, for the love of God, get rid of my double headers for Monday Night Football. And majority of them have not been great. Now, Monday night's games were pretty good, and we're going to discuss both of them. But that's just my cup of tea. So we're going to discuss the Buffalo Bills. They might need some help because their wide receiver core looks absolutely abysmal. We'll discuss that later. I want to discuss some Falcons as well. Bijan Robinson, Caleb Williams' success, Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. We're going to talk about Brian Burns getting suspended, and I'm very, very mad about that because I have some evidence and stuff to why all that going on with Juju and him was bull jive. I'm going to give my 2 cents on Tua's comments that he made on Monday. It's something that I've been really, really eager to talk about. And then lastly, we're going to end the show off with Jerry Jones. And of course, he's got something to say all the time. He just cannot help himself. And he had the nerve to make a very questionable comment yesterday on 105.3 The Fan. Shout out to all you guys over there in Dallas. Y'all's doing a great job. Hopefully, I can probably join you one day. But yes, 105.3 The Fan, even though y'all don't have no idea who I am. But yes, I'm talking about 105.3 The Fan. And Jerry Jones has something to say as well, some type of event that he had at the Star yesterday. So we're going to dive into all that. Action-packed show, and I cannot wait to get into it. Y'all see that? I didn't say guys. I'm used to saying guys. We're going to get right into it. But before we get into all that, just take care of some more housekeeping. Do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel. If you are enjoying the show and enjoying my content, check out my other content as well. I talk about sports alongside pop culture things because I am a comic book guy and I love movies and etc. and things of that nature. And I know I've not done the Hall of Heroes show. I did 3 weeks ago. I debuted it. Guys, it is just... I said guys. Ugh! I said guys. Did not mean to say that. Fans. My lovely people, it is so hard for me to get in 4 shows a week. I am a college student, currently in college, trying to do schoolwork. I got a job as well. I'm doing this for free. I wish I could do this as a job to where I can just pay people to do my lower thirds and thumbnails and everything else for me to where I can just pop up in here and shoot a show. It's not how it works for me at the moment, but we will one day. We're striving to be great, and we will get there one day. So I'm sorry if you guys have been looking for Hall of Heroes. I'm actively trying to find a way to get that show in, and I will continue to do that. So let's go ahead and, again, subscribe, comment, and like. But let's go ahead and get in today's show because I'm ready to get to them. We got a lot of good things to talk about today. Let's start off with the Atlanta Falcons and the Bills. Obviously, when I'm sitting here and watching this game, I always look for things that pop out to me. It was a very interesting game. And what I took away from this, how good are the Falcons and are the Bills' Super Bowl hopes in jeopardy? Now, let's get to the Falcons' point of view of it. The Falcons, I think, are a very good football team. They're not great, they are good because they can be a frisky team if they can just continue to play consistent football. Because they have talent all across the world on offense. I'm a huge fan of Drake London. I think he is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. I think that he has the capability to make a Pro Bowl one day. And I think he could emerge into a guy like CeeDee Lamb and Puka Nacua and all these guys. I think they can start out to a guy that you didn't think could be a number one option to someone who can eventually be your number one bona fide number one receiver. That is how high I think of Drake London. Now let's talk about this other fella. And we saw him do what he did on Monday night in Bijan Robinson. Look, and I'm here. See, I forgot to do the rest of my housekeeping. I didn't have my stats up and ready to go, but we're about to do it right here. So Bijan Robinson. Let's just go ahead and Bijan Robinson. He is a guy I have been sleeping on. I had to be totally honest and transparent. Bijan Robinson is an absolute dog. Like, he is phenomenal. He is a phenomenal football player. He literally reminds me of a player that you guys probably forgot, but I know I haven't. He reminds me so much of Todd Gurley. Like, his excitement and just how fast he is, elusive he is. In my age. Now, I'm young, and I told somebody, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were like, who do you think is the best running back of all time? And, I said Emmitt Smith, because that's the general consensus answer around the league. You got Bo Jackson, not Bo Jackson. You have Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, and, Walter Payton, give or take. Those are like those top 4 to 5 guys that people think are the best running backs of all time. But I told him in my lifetime, I'm only 21 years old, and I've only been able to consume football at a efficient rate for the last 3 years. Well, just at a high intellect, but I played Madden. I watched Todd Gurley a little bit, and these two names just popped up to me. I said, dude, Todd Gurley and Derrick Henry in my lifetime, and maybe throw Christian McCaffrey in there, are like the best running backs I've ever saw. So when I watched Bijan Robinson on Monday night and I saw the long run that he had for 81 yards and how he's able to catch the ball at the backfield, he is your multi-type back. I think he is a better version of Christian McCaffrey. And don't get me wrong, Christian McCaffrey is absolutely phenomenal. I'm not taking nothing away from Christian McCaffrey. But when you watch Bijan Robinson, he's faster than Christian McCaffrey. He's quicker than Christian McCaffrey. He is more athletic than Christian McCaffrey, even though Christian McCaffrey is athletic. And of course, he has that home run speed that Christian McCaffrey does not have. And maybe, and I want to go back to like 2017 and like Christian McCaffrey's prime years with the Carolina Panthers and see if he actually had that home run speed. Again, 2017, before I started studying football to a T. But I would love to go back, and now that I'm making these comments, go see like how his home run speed was in compared to Bijan Robinson. Because right now, every time I've been able to watch Bijan Robinson, he absolutely pops up off of my screen. He has the argument to be the best running back in the league right now. I know Saquon ran for 2,000 yards last year. Saquon is having a down year. Who else can you think of? The rushing leaders right now are, from the top of my head, I want to say Kyren Williams is in there, James Cook, Javonte Williams. I'm missing one who's like leading the league right now in rushing. I know Bijan's in there, and I'm missing one name. I think he's leading the league right now in rushing. Anyways, I can't think of a name. But I was about to say, guys, you know where I'm trying to get to. Bijan Robinson is absolutely elite. He has the argument right now to be the best running back in the league. I think he is that good. I think very highly of Bijan Robinson. And as you can tell, in my lower third, I have it called To Infinity and Bijan. Shout out to my cousin. He had this name as his fantasy team like last year, and I just had to steal it. It's the first thing that came into mind. I was like, you know what? I'm going to call this segment To Infinity and Bijan in my lower thirds. But Bijan Robinson, he had 19 carries for 170 yards. He averaged 8.9, nearly 9 yards, pretty much 9 yards a carry. That is absolutely crazy in an NFL game. And it feels like every time Bijan Robinson gets the ball, he's going to hit his head on the goalpost. That's how great Bijan Robinson is. And they have a great 1-2 combo with Tyler Algier. And he's able to get the ball and make some plays in the backfield as well. He's your multi-type back where he can catch it in the backfield and he can get the ball handed off to him. The thing that just might kill the Falcons in the future is going to be Michael Penix. We've seen in these games that Michael Penix, he's still trying to get his legs up under him as the quarterback and the leader of the franchise, because the team is pretty set up. You know, there's probably more pieces that you can get in the future, but I think Atlanta's got a pretty set team, and I'm sure Arthur Blank and leadership and ownership and the GMs and everybody involved with the franchise and over there in Atlanta, they are thinking that Michael Penix is their guy. I don't absolutely love Michael Penix. He's not athletic enough with his legs. He throws absolutely phenomenal football. I'm not dismissing that. I've never been truly in love with Michael Penix. He's kind of reminds me of Bo Nix in the sense that when he's on, he's on. But when he is off, he is off. And we saw that a couple weeks ago in Carolina when the Atlanta got absolutely smacked. Y'all know my term, absolutely smacked. 0-30 in Carolina, and he got benched, and Kirk Cousins came in for him. But I think Michael Penix can be good. I think he has the ability to make this team and get them in the playoffs. I think last year, they were one game out of not making the playoffs last year. I just don't think Michael Penix is going to be the quarterback to get them to that NFC championship game like Jayden Daniels did last year. You know, and his health is another concern for me. All the previous his injury history. So how long is he going to be able to make it in this league? That's the type of things that are pretty much hindering the Atlanta Falcons from getting to the big game and being a championship contender. And let's get to the defense, just to highlight them quickly. They absolutely got to Josh Allen. I love their pass rush. They're pretty much getting their return on investment when it comes to James Pierce Jr. He is literally, every time I see the Falcons, he is jumping off my screen. I don't know why his stock was dropping, a lot of off-the-field issues when he was coming out of the draft. But, man, seeing that kid, he's been absolutely balling. And I think overall, how many sacks did they have? I think it was 4. Yeah, they had 4 sacks. James Pierce Jr., I think he had him one. No, he actually didn't. But I think James Pierce made his presence felt. It don't show up on the stat sheet, but I promise you, he had 1 tackle for loss. James Pierce Jr. was out there making plays, and I love I think their defense right now is ranked in like top 5 in a multitude of categories. So I think this defense, led by Jesse Bates' safety, I think what was that rookie Jalen Walker from Georgia? They got him as well. They have some pieces, and AJ Terrell, he's an All-Pro corner over there. I think he made an All-Pro, but I know he was definitely a Pro Bowler. So they got a team. It's just I think they're good, and I think they will. They can make some noise in the NFC South. That little thing. I think when they play Tampa Bay again, they have the opportunity to beat them. And Tampa Bay is a little banged up now, so we'll see how Tampa Bay is going to continue to play under Baker Mayfield, who is having a phenomenal season. He is definitely the MVP so far this season. So far, but I like the Falcons. Now let's get to the Bills. Are the Bills' Super Bowl hopes in jeopardy? I want to say yes. Number one, the Bills had a great opportunity going into their bye week to be 5-1 at worst, but 6-0. One can surmise they really had no reason dropping the game that they did to New England, and they definitely should. They probably should have lost this game against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta's coming off of a bye. Maybe we'll give this one a little bit of a pass. But they definitely shouldn't have lost last week to New England. And we see how well the Chiefs have been playing the last couple of weeks. And we know they're fixing to get Rashee Rice back. And we know they're going to have something to say about it. The Bills really had the chance to let this be the year. The Chiefs are not playing good ball. We have an opportunity to get a first round, be the first overall seed, and get that first round bye. And we are set up more prime. You're going to have to go through Buffalo and is it Highland Park or whatever it's called? The final season in their stadium, because they're fixing to get ready to go to a new stadium next year. And you have a chance to make a run in the Super Bowl. All of that has pretty much been compromised. because now the New England Patriots are the division leaders in your division. So now you have an uphill climb to achieve that goal that you're setting there. Now, my problem with the Bills right now, as presently constructed, they do not have a guy on the outside that teams on defenses fear. I like Keon Coleman. I love them coming out of the draft. I really think that he can possibly emerge in the future as a number one option, maybe. But it's going to take a little bit more time. If I'm not mistaken, this is his second year, if I'm 100% certain. I want to say it is. So he's going into his second season, and he's still trying to make his way. But if you pair another worthy target with Keon Coleman, you have yourself an offense. And they had that last year when Amari Cooper came in, but Amari Cooper, he had his little small stint there. But I really think that they are missing a weapon on the outside. I like Khalil Shakir. He's your slot guy. He's not a guy that you can count on as your number one or number two. And obviously you have Dalton Kincaid, which he did not play on Monday night. And then you have Dawson Knox. So you have a good 1-2 tight end combo. But the way Josh Allen wants to play and the way the offense really revolves around Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen wants to be able to have a wide receiver security blanket. That is a surefire number one. That is something that I think they need to go out and get in the trade deadline because they need it bad. And we saw it in this game where Josh Allen, he felt like Josh Allen of old, to where he was pressing and having to feel like he made all the plays. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, is the roller coaster back, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. But I don't have no crazy graphic. I know first things first and everybody, they have people that make them graphics for them. I don't have no fancy graphic to show you the numbers, but Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions yesterday. Well, Monday, which the first one, it was a little bogus, end of the game, whatever, the game was over. But he was 15 for 26, 180 yards. He, not a lot, 6.9 average yards per pass, and he had a passer rating of 72 and a quarterback rating of 18. Josh Allen did not have a good game. And when we see the box score, he barely targeted any of his receivers. Khalil Shakir had 5 targets at the most, alongside Tyrell Shavers. I don't even know who that is. They need another weapon. I would get on the phone with Dallas and maybe see if they would shop George Pickens, because we've seen what he's been able to do. He can be a surefire number one. Maybe a lot of people's throwing around the name Chris Olave. That's a pretty good name as well, but that's something they need to do. They had a lot of offensive miscues, fumbling the ball. I think the Bills are fine. They just missed on a huge opportunity to possibly get the number 1 seed and just, feel like Josh Allen and the Bills feel like they are in prime position to get the 1 seed in the first round bye. But now Josh Allen may feel like, and may result to coming out of the bye, that he may be having to play hero ball. And we see they are able to run the ball efficiently, but it feels like they're having to play shootouts because defensively, they're not that good. This defense has been a step down to what they've had the last couple of years. Micah Hyde's not there anymore. I think Jordan Poyer is still on the team. I think he came back this year, if I'm 100% certain. Yes, Jordan Poyer is back on the team. Ed Oliver has been hurt. It's his first game back. Matt Milano is not there. One of their best linebackers, he was wearing Terrell Bernard. He got hurt in the middle of the game. So their team is a little decimated by injuries defensively. And I think their rookie cornerback that they drafted in the first round from Kentucky, he has not even played yet. So they got help on the way. But I don't love the defense. And I think they could be a reason that would keep them away from winning. The Bills away from winning a Super Bowl. Because I see an offense like Kansas City absolutely blowing this defense up. Absolutely. And we're going to see it in the future, because I think Buffalo, is it their first game? Okay. Their second game coming out of the bye is against Kansas City on November 2nd. That is going to be a huge test at Kansas City. It's going to be pretty much a litmus test to really see where the Bills think they are at. Because defensively, the Chiefs are going to have their full slate on offense. So are the Bills defensively going to be able to keep up with that big offense? Because we know that is a potential opponent that they are going to face in the AFC come playoff time. That is going to be a huge litmus test. And I don't exactly know when the trade deadline is. I want to say it's around the second week of November. But once that game happens, and I think at the end of the day, the Bills are going to be on the phone making some calls, making some trades, either at the wide receiver position or somewhere on the defensive side of the ball. But it was a good game to watch, and I had a whole lot of fun watching it. And that's pretty much all I want to say about that. Let's move on to another game, the other game that happened the other night, the one that which both of these games I had a lot of trouble having to watch. Let's talk about Washington against the Bears. What do I think about Washington? We will answer the question here. Has Caleb Williams found his footing? I'll answer that later. Let me just get to Washington just a little bit. We know that Jayden Daniels and the Commanders had a lot of expectations going into this season. You just went to the NFC Championship game last year. Is Jayden Daniels going to have the sophomore slump? Jayden Daniels isn't having the sophomore slump. He's just not playing super efficient football so far this year. Now, last week when they played, was it last week or the week before? It was last week. Yeah, it was last week because I had a show on it. So last week when they played the Chargers, their offense, they took advantage and they actually exposed the LA Chargers defense, but they didn't knock my socks off, specifically Jayden Daniels with his arm. He didn't really knock my socks off. He made some plays, don't get me wrong, but he didn't absolutely wow me over the type of football that he played against the Chargers. And then last, Monday night against the Bears, he accounted for 2 out of the 3 Washington Commanders turnovers. He made a huge fumble. I don't want to absolutely kill him. It started raining. The weather was bad, and he botched a snap and let the Bears get great field position around the 2-minute mark, and they were able to go down and kick the game-winning field goal. That was bad. And then the interception he threw, I think he was trying to target Deebo Samuel on a post route. That was absolutely bad interception as well. And I know it doesn't count, but he did lose a fumble while he was running. He was running the ball with one hand, which I despise. Everybody's trying to run the ball with one hand nowadays. I don't know, if this is the culture around the league nowadays. I don't like seeing it. Can we please just go back to just having the ball, cuffing it, and running with it? But Jayden Daniels, he was running with it. He was obviously trying to make a pass, but he ultimately the ball fumbled out of his hands because of the bad weather. I think Washington will be fine. And I think Jayden Daniels in that offense is far from playing their best football. You don't have Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, who has turned into a pretty viable receiver. He's not there. He's injured as well. So guys like Luke McCaffrey and Deebo, and we said this about Deebo Samuels. I think Deebo Samuels is good, but he cannot be like your number one option like he could in years past. So help is on the way. And I think Jayden Daniels coming off of an injury, he missed 2 games. He's still a little rusty, trying to get his feet up under him. I think he's going to be fine. I don't expect this Washington Commanders team to go deep because I don't love their defense. I think their defense is bad. Now, their D-line is able to get after the quarterback. And, I don't think Caleb Williams got sacked at all. Oh, I'm wrong. Caleb Williams got sacked 3 times. But there was a lot of moments where Caleb Williams was pretty free in the pocket and he didn't make the big mistake. Deron Payne was pretty much making his presence felt in this game. He didn't have a sack, but every time I looked at the TV screen, he seemed to be back in that backfield for the Washington Commanders. But I love their D-line, Frankie Louvu and, Deron Payne and the guys, Von Miller. They can go after the quarterback, which is, it's always been Dan Quinn's MO. It's always been his bread and butter. He was able to do that as the defensive coordinator in Dallas. But I do not absolutely love their back end. That play near the end of the game where DeAndre Swift, all he did, he ran pretty much a safety. It was pretty much what's the term they use in the NFL? It was your safe route or whatever. He just pretty much ran a out route. It was Caleb Williams' security blanket just in case nobody was open down the field. He threw it, and I was talking, DeAndre Swift makes the guy move, and I'm like, why don't you cut back right? And then he just absolutely runs through Marshawn Lattimore. That was absolutely abysmal tackling by Marshawn Lattimore, and he was able to hit his head on the goalpost. There was a lot of wide open receivers. Caleb Williams seemed like he was throwing the ball wherever he wanted to, and I know it don't show up on a stat sheet, but they have one touchdown that got called back. I don't love the back end of the Washington Commanders. I just don't, and they can be had. That's why going into their game this weekend against Dallas, I think CD and George Pickens is going to have a field day. I think Marshawn Lattimore is washed. I don't think he is good at any stretch of the imagination so far towards the latter part of his career. It has a lot to do with injury, but I just don't think they're good. And if this team even goes remotely deep in the playoffs, it's just going to have to be because of Jayden Daniels and the offense, led by Cliff Kingsbury and his pretty good play calling. I see just like the Bills, I think the defense of the Washington Commanders is going to be their Achilles heel. Now let's move on to the question at hand. Has Caleb Williams found his footing? You lose the first 2 games of the season, and it felt like the sky was falling. And, there's a whole lot of miscues, delay of games, false starts, fumbles, and botched snaps, things of that nature. And now they've went on a 3-game winning streak. You absolutely shellacked Dallas. You didn't play a great game. Probably not even a good game against the Raiders, but you were able to come out with a win. And then Monday, I keep wanting to say last night, but Monday night, you were able to go out in Washington, coming off of the bye, raining and all, and you were able to get a win. So you've won 3 straight games. And in these games, Caleb Williams has been super efficient. I want to say, like in the last, I think they said in the last 10 games or so, Caleb Williams, no, maybe 20 or 18. It was one of these numbers. Maybe let's just say 15 games. We're not spreading misinformation here. I'm 100% certain. I heard this stat. Over the last 15-ish games, average, Caleb Williams is threw for 20 touchdowns, like 3 interceptions. He's not been turning the ball over. And he seems like Caleb Williams seems to be evolving before our eyes as a quarterback. Last year, got sacked a lot. He had the tendency to do this in college, and he was doing it last year. The thing that Caleb Williams loves to do, he does not want to throw the ball out of bounds. He will run around the offensive line to try and make a play and do that crazy, sidearm run Superman throw that Caleb Williams loves to do. And he wasn't taking care of the football. I have not seen that. Maybe in the first game of the season, and maybe even the second, sporadically. But in the past couple games they've won, I have not seen that for Caleb Williams. If it's not there and he's been pressured, he's throwing the ball away. He is taking care of the football. Now, the one botch snap that he made towards the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter, that was pretty bad. I don't know how he fumbled that snap. There's a couple of miscues that Caleb Williams needs to fix, such as the pregame, pre-snap stuff, still a lot of delay of games things. There's things that Caleb Williams needs to work on. He's a little inaccurate as well. I think there's a stat that came out recently that he has the highest highest inaccurate ball. How do I want to say this? He has the highest percentage of inaccurate throws so far this season. He's among the top in the quarterbacks so far in the NFL who has a very inefficient pass rate when it comes to throwing incomplete passes. Not incomplete passes, but passes not on target. So he has had the tendency so far this year to not throw accurate footballs. In summary, Caleb Williams has had an issue with ball accuracy so far this year in the NFL. I think it was roughly around 26.some%. He has to get that under control. Now, there was a story that came out, and I haven't been able to research it, but I'm pretty interested and I want to read up on it. And obviously I weren't able to hear it in the broadcast because I have multi-view on, and I probably had the audio on the Bills game. But obviously Troy Aikman was critiquing Caleb Williams, and Twitter was going crazy about it. Ben Johnson had something to say about it, and we're butthurt about it. I'm not going to go on a tangent about that, but obviously Troy Aikman had some tough words to say about Caleb Williams on Monday night. Maybe it might be a little bit of tough love because maybe Troy Aikman knows the potential that Caleb Williams can have. I don't know the extent of that. So maybe it was along the lines that Caleb Williams is not throwing accurate footballs. He's not placing the football where it needs to be. But so far, so good. has Caleb Williams found his footing? I think he is starting to find his footing. I don't think Caleb Williams is a top 12, top 10 quarterback right now. I'm not saying that. I think Caleb Williams so far is continuing to put the right foot forward. We gotta give him a little bit of slack. He's had 2 head coaches already. Well, they say technically 3 if you count the interim coach. So he's had that in a couple of games. Bad GM. He's having to go through the history of the Bears franchise of being absolute mediocrity when it comes to the quarterback position and mediocrity when it comes to winning, period. A lot of people don't like Ryan Poles, doesn't like the ownership in the front office. Caleb Williams has a lot of things going up against him. So when you got a coach like Ben Johnson and you're trying to, and you're in you got a new head coach in Ben Johnson. You know that Ben Johnson has the potential as an offensive play caller to evolve Caleb Williams. And if you're Caleb Williams, you understand all, and Caleb Williams knows this, and he understands this. He knows all of the pressure that is on his shoulders right now as the franchise quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams knows this is the best quarterback they've had in centuries, potentially. And Caleb Williams knows that Ryan Poles offensively has provided him plenty of weapons. You got Loveland, Komet, DJ Moore, guys like Rome Odunze, who was pretty much turned out to be his favorite target. Then you have DeAndre Swift having a coming out party and seeming like he's resurrecting his career over there in Chicago the last couple of games. Because we know that Ben Johnson loves to establish the run game. But Caleb Williams knows that he has a lot on his shoulders. And I ultimately do think that Caleb Williams and the Bears can compete if they minimize those mistakes, if you minimize the penalties, if you can continue to keep Caleb Williams protected, if you stop fumbling the ball, and not technically turning the ball over, but given defenses opportunities to get turnovers by fumbling snaps and things of that nature, and pre-delay penalties. If they keep all of that down, I think they have the opportunity to be able to compete in a division with the Green Bay Packers, with the Minnesota Vikings, and with the Detroit Lions. They are in a hard division. It is going to be an uphill battle for them to make the playoffs. You're sitting at 3-2. You're sitting pretty. I think Detroit's 4-2. I think Green Bay should be 4-1-1. Green Bay should be. No, Green Bay's coming off a bye, so they should be 3-1-1. And I want to say, what is Minnesota? Minnesota is roughly, I don't know. Minnesota's coming off a bye. No, Minnesota's not coming off a bye. They played. When did Minnesota play? Yeah, Minnesota's 3-2, so they did play this past week. I just don't know who they played. Yeah, they had a bye. Yeah, they did have a bye. Okay, so yeah, they're coming off a bye, so they'll be ready to go and play. So the Bears have a lot of things going on in the future, and we're looking forward to it. And I think they can compete. All right, now that we get to that, let's move on to something that I've been very passionate about, and something that a player like Brian Branch has been getting killed for in the media. If you guys were not aware, the NFL pretty much decided to suspend Brian Branch for the things that he did after the game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night. Obviously, all that everybody is going to point to is this graphic right here, or this picture that was taken by a photographer, to where Brian Branch was mad over some stuff that happened during the game, and I would get to that. And, he got picked on a lot during this game, with Mahomes getting flexed on. Mahomes flexed on him in the end zone and stuff, and then Juju did what he did, and we'll discuss that in a bit. And then Brian Burns did this after the game, causing the whole scene in a fight, and the NFL decided to suspend him. To answer the question at hand, were were Brian Branch's actions validated? I think, and I might be wrong for this, and I might get killed for this, but me personally, out on the field, the bull jive that Juju Smith-Schuster tried to pull, oh no, I'm not letting that slide. That's just me personally. Now, I would have loved for Branch to have done something during and within the game. That is my only gripe with Brian Branch. I don't like the idea of all this happening post-game. Everybody's around you. Photographers are on the field. Media personnel are on the field. And you're doing all that stuff. You're causing a opportunity for potential harm to happen to individuals. People can get hurt. You can roll up on somebody, break somebody's ankle. There's a lot of bad things that can happen with doing that such a stunt at the end of the game where everybody's trying to dap you up. You know, everybody's on the field. Media, players, and everybody. That's what I don't like. I wish you would have done it within the confines of the game. Now, I know I don't know if you've seen the video, and I want to be able to play it for you guys if there's no audio. Okay, I think you guys should be able to see this. Here we are. If you're able to see, I cannot tell if you guys see it, but if you can see this, watch Brian Branch. Look what happens. Watch Juju Smith-Schuster right there on the edge and Brian Branch. That is the cheap shot that Brian Branch was mad at when it came to Juju Smith-Schuster, and we'll look at it one more time. If you are not aware, I am a registered official for multiple sports. Football mainly and primarily being my number one sport. It is my favorite to call, and it is one that I am super passionate about. Somebody is getting a downgrade, and I know this because I have someone, and I have a close connection, and I'm not going to name them for confidentiality reasons and for ethical reasons. I know someone who is an official in the higher ups. I'm not specifying where. I know someone in higher up in officiating, and they said to me, and I already knew this and I had the idea that it was, but I just wanted it for confirmation issues. And they assured me, they were like, Jayden, that was absolutely 100% a blindside block. It was a blindside block. And I know the media and Nick Wright, I love Nick Wright. He's been so wrong about this to begin with. And he went on, you know, him and Broussard on Monday's show was like, you know, if it was a blindside block, we don't know. Yes, it was. And I know I'm not going to kill them because I know they don't have a background in officiating like I do. I saw it. It looked like a blindside block to me. And I got confirmation from someone who is a professional. They said, yes, absolutely. That is a blindside block. So the play was illegal. And the referee should have thrown the flag, like Brian Branch said and stated in the post game. And that official is getting a downgrade. Whatever line judge, referee, umpire, they all were in the area in the vicinity of the play. Somebody is getting a downgrade. If it's individually, I don't know how it works. Either individually or as a crew, somebody is getting a downgrade. Because that can't happen. It is blatant. It was within the confines of the play. It's not like it was happened after the play. It literally happened around the vicinity of the play. And the umpire and the referee sitting right there. I know they were probably ball watching, which is something that we are not taught to do. And I know and I got to take a little heat off the officials. I know it is very hard to look away for stuff like that because you're trying to spot the ball and things of that nature. There's a lot of bodies down there in a pile and you're trying to get everybody up and not to cause a fight. But as a lot of people say in our industry, we got to have that. We got to have the unnecessary roughness and any unsportsmanlike act that Juju committed. Juju Smith-Schuster is in the wrong. And I don't want to kill Patrick Mahomes, and I know they probably didn't pay attention to what happened and they didn't know. Pat Mahomes made a whole deal in the post game, want to talk about, well, they can do all that bull crap that they want, which this was post game, but it was not during a press conference. It was in the middle of the field. It was in the middle of an interview. And the reporter asked him, like, what do you think? And he was like, man, they can do all that crap between the lines. We're going to do what we do and be, basically sound like they are mature and a more mature team and they're going to do things, That's what Pat Mahomes is pretty much saying. And I know Patrick Mahomes didn't see what Juju did, but Pat Mahomes, bro, come on. That was a cheap shot that Juju did. That was not even close. And if I'm Brian Branch, I would have done the same thing. I would have done it within the game, but I am not letting that dude pump me like that. Not Juju Smith-Schuster, absolutely not. Somebody who is, considered washed somewhat because he was a Pro Bowler. He had all these expectations when he was with Pittsburgh, when he was alongside Antonio Brown, and even after Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh thought that he was going to be the next best thing, and he ultimately has not been that. Now he's went to Kansas City. He's a Super Bowl champion. Give Juju Smith-Schuster some credit. But let's not sit here and act like Juju Smith-Schuster is a top 20, 30 wide receiver right now in the NFL. He's not. There's a plethora of guys that you're going to choose before Juju Smith-Schuster. And Brian Branch is a pretty darn good safety. I can argue he's probably a top 5, 7 safety so far in the league. He's that good. And a guy like Juju getting a cheap shot like that. And people are not expecting Brian Branch to just pretty much let it go. I have a problem with it. And I have a problem with the NFL trying to discipline Brian Branch when they, so far to what I've seen, have done nothing to Juju Smith-Schuster. No fine, no nothing for the illegal hit that he put, an unsportsmanlike act that he did with Brian Branch. It was I want to go back and review. But if I'm certain, if I felt like that block happened after the play. It was during the play. Okay, it was during the play, but still, it was literally not needed. It was contact that was inexcusable and unsportsmanlike. I won't say unsportsmanlike because it was during the play, because I don't think it classifies as unsportsmanlike, but it was definitely a blindside block and should have been called. And I think Brian Branch and the way he spoke out about it, he's right. And I think so far he is appealing the suspension. I think he should get a fine and be able to play next week, because it's absolute bull crap that, the suspension that he was given. Now, I meant to look up the stats. I have it wrote down here in my notes to look up the stats, but I still didn't. But we know that Brian Branch most likely got a suspension because of the past actions that Brian Branch has committed so far in his career. He is a player that has a lot of off-the-field issues. Well, not off-the-field issues. He has had a lot of disciplinary issues when it comes to fines and stuff for things and acts that he's committed on the field. I just saw when I was looking up everything, week 1, he got fined for sticking up the middle finger or something at a fan or whatever. Something happened in Green Bay. He got fined a lot of money. And I think so far he's been fined, because this is Brian Branch's second or third year. Brian Branch has been fined a significant amount of money. I think it's Brian Branch's third year. But anyways, I digress. He's been fined a significant amount of money so far this year. And I think that is the reason why the NFL took the position they did in trying to suspend him a game. But I'm taking the side with Brian Branch, because I don't think you can suspend a guy for retaliating to an act that I'm going to call it unsportsmanlike, because it was bull jive. Committing a unsportsmanlike act, a block that was unnecessary, and just act like nothing happened and just able to go by. And I know I have the most problems trying to say Dan Campbell's name. For some odd reason, every time I talk about the Lions, it seems like I forget that Dan Campbell is their coach. But Dan Campbell, he went on this little tangent and he was like, we're not that type of team. We play good football. He apologized to Andy Reid. I get it. It was the ethically right thing and position to take as Dan Campbell. But if I'm Dan Campbell behind the scenes, I'm going up to Brian Branch and like, all right, dude, I understand. I get it. But let's just try and do it within the confines of the game and not try to make a scene out of it post game. I'm with you, Brian Branch. I'm not taking this position, and I'm not excusing all of the past actions that Brian Branch has committed in the past. I've seen a lot of stuff that he's did. He can be a little extra sometimes, but in this situation, with the crap that happened with the blindside block, I am team Brian Branch all the way. And Juju is on my, no. I would have done the same thing Brian Branch did, just within the confines of the game. Tua Tagovailoa, and we're going to move on. Tua Tagovailoa has been in the media for obviously not good things. Well, in a lot of people's eyes, they may seem as not good. They lost. They're 1-5 on the season, and it seems like a lot of things is not going right so far. Let me switch my notes here. Not a lot of things is going right this season for Miami. They do not have a good defense. Tua's played okay, not great. They've got a lot out of Darren Waller, who has resurrected his career coming out of retirement. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Tyreek Hill blew his knee out, and who knows what his career is going to be. And there was an article going out about Miami ultimately not bringing him back next year. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Miami, and they lost a close one to the Chargers on Sunday, and Tua Tagovailoa had a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with the leadership
in
helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
So you guys see what Tua had to say there. Tua Tagovailoa went on a tangent, pretty much calling out his team and the reason why they're losing. Was this a smart decision by Tua Tagovailoa to call out his teams, talking about teams being late, not showing up to meetings, and things of that nature? I'm going to say no. I'm not going to take a position, and I know it's the easy position to take because, everybody in the media has had their 2 cents. I'm a little late to the party when discussing this, and, everybody's had their say, and I'm kind of going along with the general consensus. But I've wrote and come up with my own answer and synopsis for this. I'm going to take the position and say I understand Tua's frustration. You're 1-5. You lost your number 1 wide receiver. The team's not playing well defensively, and you're not winning football games. And you work hard all off season, leading up to the preseason, training camp, and things of that nature to get ready for the season. And 6 weeks in, you're not going to make the playoffs, and the future of the ball club is in question, undoubtedly. But at the same time, and this is where I'm going against what Tua said. Tua Tagovailoa, you don't have to cachet to make that statement. I'm sorry. You're not Patrick Mahomes. You're not Lamar Jackson. You haven't won 3 MVPs. You haven't won 3 Super Bowls. You're not Joe Burrow. You've not been to a Super Bowl. You're not Josh Allen, highly regarded as a top 3 quarterback in the league. And you're not even players like Dak Prescott, who's been great and, he's played well. And he has great character. Tua, you have unachieved so far as a quarterback in this league. During the 2020 draft, you were in the same draft class as Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and other guys who I think from the top of my head, I know Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow for sure. I don't know if there's another name that I'm missing, but if I am, we just need those first 2 names. So far, both of those guys have been better quarterbacks than you so far in their career. And the Miami Dolphins drafted you ahead of Justin Herbert. And a lot of people were saying, did they make a lot of people have been having the conversation over the last couple of years saying, did the Dolphins blow that pick by not picking up Justin Herbert? Because we know Tua Tagovailoa's injury history with the concussions, and last year we had the whole fiasco with his career being in question, and a lot of people saying, "Okay, Tua, should you play football? He's in danger now." He had a hit earlier in the season. I was sitting there like, I think it was in the Monday Night Football game when Tyreek blew his knee out, and he took a hit to the head, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, is Tua okay?" He ultimately was fine. But these are all the questions that have been going on surrounding your name, Tua. And you have underachieved. Your team went to the playoffs twice while you've been the quarterback. One, you were not available because you were hurt with a concussion. If I'm 100% correct, stand corrected. And then that very next season, you played in the one playoff game, but you were absolutely atrocious. Now, to give you some leeway, you played in bad weather. It was snowing in Kansas City, and you were playing at Kansas City. And the team that you played ultimately went on to win the Super Bowl. We'll give you a little pass with that, but you didn't score any points. I think you scored, 7 or 10 points? You didn't score a lot of points in that game. And you just didn't have a great game at all. So you do not have the cachet to make that statement. I don't think you have to right to question leadership because you are the quarterback. It's the job of the quarterback and the head coach to establish their leadership. When you go around the league, what do we say about Josh Allen? He's a leader. What do we say, about Dak Prescott? He's a leader. Patrick Mahomes, he's a leader. Any team, Jalen Hurts, leader. Those are the type of qualities we associate with these characters. And these are your what's the word I'm looking for? These are your associates. These are your coworkers, so to speak. And there's another word, synonym that you can say for it. You guys know what I mean. They are pretty much your constituents in your workforce, in your line of work. And you're competing against them. And all those guys have that leadership quality, and you do not have that. I don't think you do. When I've looked at Tua Tagovailoa, just as a guy, the way he acts, the way he puts himself on the podium, he's not a guy that you can really take serious. I don't even take him serious. Not only with this, with this thing and notion that he put up on the podium, with this, just Tua in general, in past type of media interviews that he's had, I don't find Tua as a very motivating figure and a person who I would want to go to war with. Tua just seems to me, and he does not give me off that type of impression as a football player and as the quarterback and the franchise quarterback of your team. A guy who's been getting paid a lot of money. And so when you make this comment questioning leadership and about how team meetings you've been late to team meetings and people's been late to team meetings, and when all this happened, you had an ex-teammate of yours call you out and say, dude, you've been late to team meetings. It's just not a good look. This is something that you have to do behind the scenes. If you're questioning anything about the team, it is always the best option to pretty much relay this type of frustration behind the scenes. I've always been an advocate for this in the NFL. I think it's the best policy. I think the teams like the Chiefs and all these other teams, even though, I would say the Eagles because they won a Super Bowl with being able to deal with this type of discourse. But if you go back in time, when it goes to the Patriots, Chiefs, or anybody who's won a Super Bowl, stuff like this always is handled in-house. Any type of discourse or anything that revolves stuff that is negatively affecting winning. You teams keep this in-house. And I just don't think it was the best idea for Tua to go out and make this public. But let's just be honest. There's no leadership in Miami. There's not. Tua doesn't have leadership qualities. And do not get me started with Mike McDaniel. This is nothing against Mike McDaniel. He's a great play caller. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to be as nice as possible. But I'm gonna put it this way. Mike McDaniel, me personally, could not motivate me to make a sandwich. I'm just calling it like it is. I cannot take the guy serious. He looks goofy with what he wears, with the shorts or the pants, whatever you want to call them, the outfits, the shades. He just looks goofy. I mean, I can't take the guy serious. When you compare coaches like the Mike Tomlins, the Sean McVays, and all these guys, Kyle Shanahan, you got all these coaches who's had success in the league. And you just look at him and you're looking at him like, yep, that guy's a leader. He looks like a guy you can respect, and he looks like he's got an intimidating factor to him, just a little bit. You know, he looks like if you don't want to make this guy mad. When you look at Mike McDaniel, you're like, dang, I would not be scared. If I'm a player on the Miami Dolphins, I would probably laugh at the guy if he tried to fuss us out about anything. I'm just being honest. You know, I don't want to be mean, but it's the God's honest truth. And I don't call for anybody to be fired, but after this season, I'm pretty sure, and Mike McDaniel has signified this over the last week and a half. He's met with ownership. I think Mike McDaniel is close to being out of the door in Miami. I think they need to scrap everything across the board. You're stuck with Tua Tagovailoa. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm looking to move and draft the quarterback in the near future because who knows Tua's health in the future. That is a huge concern. But there's no leadership in Miami. So if guys are late to meetings, that is on Tua Tagovailoa, but that is also on the head coach as well. Because somebody is not in that locker room setting the precedent and setting the standard as a culture and as a football team that we need to win. And the only way that we are going to win is if everybody puts in 100% effort. So someone is missing that mark. And ultimately, it seems to be Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. All right. Let's move on to our very last topic of today's show. Thank you for joining me, who all is watching and continuing to watch. Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones. He's the gift that keeps on giving. I don't know what else to say. There's no other way to put it. You gotta love the guy. It's hard to love him, but sometimes you gotta love the guy. He went on 105.3 to Fan. I do not have the exact audio clip from where he stated it, but I saw a tweet by Bobby Built to where along the lines, Jerry Jones pretty much came out and said that the pass rush for the Dallas Cowboys was the deepest in the league. Just paraphrasing, that wasn't verbatim. Or in the league or part of the Cowboys roster. I have the clip and soundbite here. Okay. I'm going to let you guys determine for yourselves.
We've got a lot of personnel, especially in our pass rush. We're deep in pass rush. We were really not deep last year because we had so many injuries. And Sam Williams, Parsons, people like that, Lawrence. Well, we're not in that shape this year, and so we've got a real strength there. And I think we'll use that as we look and adjust in the games ahead. And as always, we've got some adjustments to make. We'll make those and on defense, and not necessarily an adjustment of player or an adjustment of something you'd see when you line up, but more an adjustment of just focus and an emphasis on some of the keys that those players are keying off of. But I think we can improve on our defense.
Do you see
and candidly, to answer your question,
look, I can't sit and watch this no more. I just can't. I got to get him off my screen. I can't take it. Me personally, I just cannot take it. I can't do it. So that's essentially what Jerry Jones had to say. The Cowboys so far this season have been beyond frustrating because it starts with the ownership. I think he has mishandled the Michael Parsons situation. I'm not going to get on a whole tangent about that because we could be here for the next 30 minutes. I'm not going to do that because we got a lot to talk about. The show's already been an hour. And I'm trying to get him out of here in the next 15 minutes. But there's no way that he believes this. He's trying to say the politically correct answer. Jerry Jones knows. There's no way he can be this dumb. He knows the defense is bad. And he knows specifically pass rush might be the worst unit on the team. Probably wouldn't go that far because the defensive tackles, maybe even I think the linebackers are just so bad. I think linebacker, safety, and edge rush is competing for the worst unit on the team. Shocking to say, given the the emphasis that we've put on the defensive tackles, but I think Kenny Clark and Osa, those guys have pretty much been able to establish themselves as not the weak link. But Jerry, I'm going to give off a little bit of stats just for you if you didn't know. The Cowboys have 11 sacks. If you take away the Jets game, which they had 6 sacks in those games, in that game, through 5 games, the Dallas Cowboys have five sacks. So they've had a sack a game. That's not good. In comparison to other teams like the Broncos, who have 30, roughly 3 times the amount of sacks that you have as a ball club. You've given up the most pass yards all across the board, averaged or throughout the game in the league. And overall, on a weekly basis, they are getting little to no pass rush. Dante Fowler has not been good. And it's not totally his fault. He's in the latter part of his career. He had a lot of success in Washington, but he had other guys that was rushing beside him in Washington, so he was getting a lot of one-on-one looks. In the case for Dante Fowler on the Cowboys, he's probably, arguably, your number 1 pass rusher at the defensive end position with a edge rusher room, with guys like Donovan Ezeraka, who's your second-round pick and rookie, Sam Williams, who's been an absolute bust. He's coming off a big ACL injury, but still, he looks like he can barely move out there on the field. Marshawn Nealon, he's been hurt, banged up, but he's just not played great. That has been your defensive end group. Jerry Jones, I know you had a birthday yesterday. Happy belated birthday. Buddy, there's no way, just no way you think that this pass rush, group of pass rushers, I don't even count the defensive tackles. That's not their primary job to rush the passers. Those defensive ends, their job is to get after the quarterback. There's no way that you think that the Dallas Cowboys edge rushers are the deepest part of your roster. That is just being absolutely delusional and naive. Again, I may be wrong. He may just be saying the politically correct answer. Prove me wrong, Jerry. I hope I'm wrong. This is the part of being a Cowboy fan that is just rough. Because I told a lot of people, I do not think the Dallas Cowboys are going to have success in any way, form, or fashion until the team is out of the hands of the Jones family. We appreciate the Jones family. They've done a lot for the game. Jerry Jones was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame as an owner. That is a huge honor, and not many owners, not a lot of owners, have the ability to say that. You acquired a team. I learned a lot about you in the documentary. You run the team 3 Super Bowls in very hard times. But I think you have fell out of touch with reality. And you're living in a soap opera. And you're not living in reality. I feel like you want the edge rush team to be good. It's hard not to like the fellas, but they're just not good. They're not good defensively across the board. That defense needs a complete overhaul. Micah Parsons, and I know a lot of people, and I'm still going to continue to harp on this. I do not think Micah Parsons on this team would have made a huge difference defensively for them. I don't. If you watch, if I know a lot of people in the mass media don't, but I watch these Cowboys games on a weekly basis for 3.5+ hours. I watch the game in full. They have holes everywhere on defense. And I mean everywhere. From edge rusher, defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, the list goes. They need a complete overhaul. And that one player was not going to make a difference. Not even free agency is going to save that. Maybe not even the draft. It's going to be a couple years. So hopefully they can hit on those future draft picks because they need edge rush. Because that Micah Parsons made that group more talented than probably they actually were. Because he was able to get the double teams. And guys like Marshawn Nealon and when Dante Fowler was there for the Dallas Cowboys and Sam Williams, they were able to eat with those one-on-one blocks. And another guy that we need to put in consideration too as well for a reason why the pass rush has been lacking, Marcus Lawrence. He's been playing pretty good football over there in Seattle. And his presence is very much missed as well. So when you go from a unit like Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence, and then, you were able to have the Marshawn Nealons and Sam Williams and Dante Fowler on deck, guys who are feast or famine. They're not consistent. And you were able to put them on pass rushing downs when you knew, okay, they have a chance and a shot to get to the quarterback. To now they're your primary options. Let's be honest. I don't think Marshawn Nealon would be a starting pass rusher for any team in the NFL. Maybe like the Dolphins, somebody who absolutely need a pass rush. But I promise you, 27 out of the 32 teams, Marshawn Nealon would not start for. Same goes to Sam Williams. Donovan Ezaraku is his rookie year, his first 6 games. I think he has some high upside. But at the moment, Donovan Ezaraku is not a beast, make or break. And I think Dante Fowler, he's not a starter, but he's a viable backup. I think Dante Fowler is your best pass rusher because I was able to see this in person. And he's the only guy to me that has speed off the edge at all. But that's not saying much. And when Jerry Jones continues to make comments like this, it's just depressing, humiliating, and just annoying that we have an owner that cannot recognize a bad team and a bad unit specifically when we all know as fans, analysts, casuals, everybody who watches football can see bright as day and as clear as all get out that unit is not even close to one of the best in the league and the deepest part of that Cowboys roster. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me for tonight's show. I enjoyed your presence so much, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday, and we're going to discuss a lot more topics going on in the world of sports in the coming days. And I am going to try my hardest to get Hall of Heroes out to you at some point in the future. Hopefully, maybe this week. But thank you for watching. Do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button. Check out all my videos below. And check out the podcast on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you would like to watch it on that medium instead of on YouTube. So you can just turn it off on your phone. You can listen to it in the car. You can listen to it while you're doing chores. Anything that you guys would... I said guys. Any way you want to watch the show. I thank you for your continued support. Continue to like, continue to subscribe, and refer the podcast to a friend. I love you so much. Have a great day, and I will see you on Friday. Peace, love, and positivity always. See you.